Hello folks, hope you are doing great. In this video, we are going to talk about data query language or DQL. DQL is actually very intuitive. It has just one main command, select. But select comes with a bunch of subcommands and keywords and clauses, and I walk you through them step by step. I'll show you everything visually so it's easy to follow and make sense right away. Now keep in mind DQL is only for querying data, basically pulling information out of the database. It's different from DDL and DML, which are used to create or change databases, tables, and rows. By the way, I already have videos on DDL, DML, and TCL, so check them out if you want to learn how to create databases, build tables, or insert and update records.
Data instant.
Okay, let's get started. First, we will create a database called sales_db_DQL, and inside that, we'll make a table called orders with 6 columns: order ID, customer name, product, quantity, price, and order date. Now open your SQL interface. I'll be using MySQL Workbench in this video, but if you are on Microsoft SQL Server or another SQL tool, don't worry, the commands are almost the same everywhere, so feel free to use them. But if you don't have SQL installed yet, I've got another video showing how to download and set up MySQL Server and Workbench, so you can watch that first, get your setup ready, and then come back and watch this one. So if we already have some databases from previous videos, we want to drop that, create our database, and then switch that as our default database. And then we want to create the table. The table name is orders. We also need to specify the columns, data type, and constraints. Order ID, customer name, product, quantity, price, and finally order date. And then we need to also populate that with some data so that we can start working with that. So we put insert into orders, values, and we're gonna have 7 orders to keep it simple. Alice, Bob, Charlie. Please place another order on Jan 20th. David, we bought a laptop, 1 laptop, and the price of the laptop is $1,200. On January 22nd, Charlie bought 10 mouse, and Charlie again bought a laptop for $1,200 on January 28th. Okay, let's run this. The first query that I'm going to show you is the shortest one. We want to select everything from our table. So type select, and this symbol called asterisks and means everything. It means all the columns from orders table. Let's run it. Perfect. You can see all the rows and all the columns are displayed in the results section. Sometimes you don't want to see the whole table and want to see only a few first rows. Let's say only want to see the first 2 rows. Just type similar to above. You just type select star from orders, but you need to add a limit, and we only want 2 rows, so we put limit 2. Okay, there you go. You can see only 2 first rows are displayed. You can also sort the table by any column we want. For example, let's sort by price. In order to do that, we just repeat the code, select a star from order, and then we just put order by price. Awesome. You can see the order has been changed from lowest price to highest price by default. What if you want to sort that from highest to lowest? You just type select star from orders, but this time after price, you need to add DESC, which stands for descending. Let's quickly run it. Perfect. You can see the price. It's ordered from highest price to lowest. What if you don't want to include all the columns and only care about the specific ones? For example, we want to only see product and price, nothing else. It's easy. You just type the columns instead of the asterisk in front of your select statement from orders. Awesome. This shows only the product and price columns. But notice we get duplicates here. For example, we have 3 rows that shows laptop and its price, because the same product might be sold to different customers at the same price. To clean that up, we use distinct. So let's see how we can remove duplicates. In front of select, we type distinct, and the rest of the code the same as previous one. There you go. You can see the duplicates are gone, and we can see the unique rows. One more thing I want to mention that is, besides selecting columns directly, you can also create what I call a calculated column. For example, let's calculate the total amount for each order, which is just quantity times price. Think of it like a virtual column. It's not stored in the table, but it's generated on the fly when you run your query. Let me show you the code. So select a star, and here you have to specify the formula or the calculations that you are planning to get. So we want to get quantity times price, and we give it a name. So we use AS or alias, and we call it total amount. Let me run this one. There you go. You can see a new column has been added to the results tab. Remember, this is only a virtual column. It's not saved in the database. It's just for reporting or analysis. That's the beauty of DQL. It's all about querying and extracting data, not changing or manipulating it like DML commands. SQL also lets you use conditional logic. If you have used Excel or other programming languages, you're probably familiar with if-then statements. In SQL, the equivalent is case-when statement. For example, let's classify price into ranges. If the price is above 200, then we consider the price range to be high. For less than 200, it has to be low. So let me show you how to do that. Similar to above, select a star comma, and then we use case when statement. Case when price is greater than 200, then high, else low, and we put an end here. Very intuitive, and we give it a name, price range. Perfect. You can see price range column has been added to our results. In real world, tables often have thousands or even millions of rows, and usually you don't want to pull the rows all at once. Instead, we filter the rows using a clause called where. For example, let's say we only want to see the order dates from the orders placed by Charlie. Watch this. Select the columns, customer name, and order date from orders, and then you use the where clause and specify the filters that you want to put on the rows or records. So we want only the rows whose customer name is Charlie. There you go. You can see Charlie and the dates that he had placed orders. Just a heads up that where clause isn't limited to just using equals. You can use other operators too. Let's look at some of them. Let's start by the like operator, which is very useful and lets you specify the patterns inside the text. For example, let's say we want to find the orders placed by customer names that contains AVI. That matches David customer name. So let me show you how to do that. Select customer name and order date from orders, where here we put customer name, like, and the patterns. Percent AVI percent is what we should put here. And the percent sign are wildcards, meaning anything before and after. So this finds any customer name that contains AVI. Let me run it. Perfect. You can see David is displayed here. Another common operator is between, which filters results within a range. For example, let's get all the rows from January 15th to January 22nd. So we select everything from orders, where order date is between Jan 15th and Jan 22nd. You can put any values that you want here or numerical values. Let me run this. There you go. We got the results that we expected. We can also use and/or logical operators. For example, let's get all the orders for keyboards and monitors. So type select from orders, where product is keyboard or product is monitor. There you go. Keyboard and monitor orders are displayed. But if you have a long list of products, writing lots of ors gets messy. That's where the in operator comes in. I'm gonna do the same, get the same results as above, but this time using in operator. So we put product in and then list all the values that we want in bracket. Keyboard, monitor. There you go. You got these values that you expected. You can also combine conditions across different columns. For example, if we want to see orders where Charlie bought a mouse, we can use two conditions. Let me show you how to do that. Select customer name and product and order date from orders where product is mouse and customer name is Charlie. Fantastic. You got the results. All right. Let's move on to something really important in data analysis, aggregate functions. These are super useful when you want to summarize data. For example, let's calculate total quantity of items each customer ordered. Just by looking at data, you can see Alice ordered 2 laptops, 1 monitor, so her total is 3. Bob has 5 miss, so his total is 5. Charlie ordered 3 keyboards and 10 miss and 1 laptop, so his total is 14. And finally, David ordered only 1 laptop, so his total is 1. So we need to only select customer name and quantity because we want to find total quantity per customers. So the way that we want the desired results show up is to have one customer at a time, meaning that we want the customer to only appear only once, each customer. For example, we want 1 Alice, 1 Bob, 1 David, and 1 Charlie. So we have to first group them together. And then we want the calculation happens, which is in our case the sum of the quantity. So this is what we want to see. And remember, it's not just sum. You can also use other aggregate functions like max, average, count, and other types of aggregate functions. So let me show you how to do that. As I said, we only select customer name, and then for quantity, we use the aggregate function, sum quantity, and we give it a name from table, and we have to use group by because we want to group it by customer name, and that's it. Perfect. You see, we have 3 for Alice, 5 for Bob, 14 for Charlie, and 1 for David. Let me also show you how to include other types of aggregate functions all at once. So what you need to do is straightforward. Repeat the code above and then add whatever aggregate functions that you are interested in. Max, average, and give them alias or name. And also count is one of the most useful and common ones. And one group by for all takes care of everything. Amazing. Now you have all the aggregate functions that you wanted. And here is something important. If you want to filter results based on aggregate values, you cannot use the where clause. That's because SQL first groups the rows, then calculates the aggregates. Instead, you have to use the having clause. For example, let's say we only want to show the customers whose total quantity is less than 4. So we type select customer name and can include all the aggregate functions as we previously had. And then after group by, we add having clause and type the condition total quantity less than 4. Perfect. We only have Alice worth 3 total quantity and David with 1. Remember that using having doesn't prevent us from using where, so we can have both at the same time. Let's say we want to have Alice as the customer name, and we also want to keep the total quantity less than 4 as another condition on the aggregate function. So we put customer name Alice, group by, and we also include having total quantity less than 4. Let me run this. Perfect. All right, that's it. Congratulations. You have now learned all the main SQL commands and statements. I hope this video was helpful, and I hope to see you in the next videos.